Well, there are rumblings all over the media now that on April 20th, Trump will declare martial law, which effectively means the military takes over for the police. Free speech becomes illegal. Protests become illegal. You have to have the permission of the military to do anything. And worse than that, the commander-in-chief, Trump, can do basically anything he wants. Literally. Okay? We may be looking at the end of American democracy, and we have 13 days left. Okay? Here's my point. Please prepare your family for the worst. The other rumor is that they're going to seize all the guns. So if you have a gun, you want to keep it, you might want to bury it in your backyard. Stock up on food. Please stop spending money you don't have to spend. You may need it, okay? If he shuts everything down, you're going to need some cash. You're going to need something, okay? Please prepare your family for the worst and hope for the best. If this is just a rumor and it doesn't happen, then that's great. We're all fine. But if it does, you have 13 days to prepare. Please be ready.
Why should April 20th matter to you? Yes, it's 420, and God knows we all have reason to be stoned this year and spent a few hours forgetting this administration. But on January 20th, 2025, when news outlets were covering Trump's inauguration, something very important was happening in a back room. He signed an executive order. I know, he does this probably more than he changes his underwear, but why is this one important? Because it declared a national emergency at the southern border, and it gave the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security 90 days to report together on whether the president should invoke the Insurrection Act. 90 days from January 20th is April 20th. But let's back up. What's the Insurrection Act? It's an act that was passed in 1807 that gives the president the right to deploy U.S. troops on American soil in our cities. The president gets to do this, leapfrogging the governors and mayors and even protesters. It means democracy takes a backseat to authoritarianism, while the administration pretends that they are trying to restore order. Okay, I get it. You think I'm overreacting. But am I? Because Trump already did this. In June 2020, after George Floyd was murdered and millions of Americans took to the streets in protest, what did Trump do? I'll give you a guess, and the answer was not allow for peaceful protest and empathy. Instead, he tried to invoke the Insurrection Act. When the military said nope, he sent federal forces to break up peaceful protests in D.C. so he could have a photo op holding an upside-down Bible in front of a church. He was so pissed off that the generals wouldn't bow to his wishes that he found a way around it. This time, he's making sure that he doesn't have to. Trump has installed cronies in every position that would normally serve as a check and balance to the executive branch. Instead of a military that upholds the Constitution rather than the president, we have Pete Hegseth, the guy spilling war plans over on Signal. We have Tulsi Gabbard oxymoronically heading up intelligence. And of course, J.D. Vance, the Veep, who can't get anyone in Greenland to listen to him, is down with the military using force against Americans. In fact, on March 19th, 1 month before this Insurrection Act deadline, these three went to the southern border and they did a photo op. There was no other reason for them to be there. Nothing political, no routine visit, just a photo op for the media by the defense secretary, the VP, and the head of military intelligence. Why? Because this has never been about immigration, but rather about absolute power. They were starting to braid the threads that will, in a month, become the story that gives them a reason to invoke the Insurrection Act when there's no actual insurrection. What will they say? Look, we had to do it. This is a disaster of enormous proportions. Why do you think we were all there monitoring it? So let's say that April 20th comes and the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security, now run by Trump loyalists, tell the president that he can invoke the Insurrection Act. Then what? Well, Trump continues to lie, of course. He'll tell the media that blue Democratic cities are under siege by the radical left and illegal immigrants. I wouldn't be surprised if he uses the millions that turned out this past weekend in protest to prove his point. He signs the Insurrection Act. He sends the military to places like Boston, New York, Chicago. Protesters get arrested because the military is allowed to do that under the Insurrection Act. The media is told to stand down or face consequences. Even more immigrants are rounded up and put in holding centers. And the public? The public is told to shut up or face retribution. And it's all perfectly legal because of the Insurrection Act. Now, if you think that the military won't do this, or that the courts will stop Trump, think again. The National Guard was sent in when the military wouldn't go during the George Floyd protests. The courts didn't stop January 6th from happening. They could only prosecute after the fact, and even then, those who were jailed have already been pardoned. April 20th is coming, And Trump is going to say that the Insurrection Act is really a terrible, terrible thing, but he has to do it to save America. What he's really doing is saving power for himself. Fascism doesn't come with goose-stepping soldiers. It comes with orders signed in back rooms, loyalists who care only about their own status in the administration, and citizens who are too scared to speak out. So what do? Well, it's not April 20th yet. So call your representatives today and ask them to investigate Trump's January 20th executive order. Contact the media and tell them to report on the Insurrection Act. Tell everyone you know about this and ask them to tell 5 more people and to call their reps too. Trump is assuming we won't know what he's done until it's after April 20th and too late. Oh, by the way, guess what else is April 20th? Hitler's birthday.
The tsunami is approaching the United States. The last 4 years was the retreat of the waters, and now the wave is coming. And that wave isn't what we use metaphorically to describe a large people of voting. No. This is a wave of laws. That retreat was the degradation. That was a sign that absolute oppression is coming. I'm not asking people to go and do illegal shit right now. I know the stakes. I know how much there is to lose. Trust me, I'm living a more or less legal life right now. But you do need to recognize that what's legal today will not be legal tomorrow. And if you understand my hierarchy videos, you'll realize that conditional application of law means that people like me, are going to get the hardest hit by that wave of laws. We're in a situation where you can break the law once, not multiple times. You can no longer get rolled up anymore, released, and go to another protest and get rolled up again. They're getting to a point where you have one action available to you, and it'll be a self-sacrifice. And your choice is what event will have to be that sacrifice. But the more legal actions you can take right now, joining these support organizations, supporting protests, you don't have to be on the front lines. Simply talking and encouraging people to understand the situation. You could still do a whole bunch of work to take care of this situation without having to make that sacrificial moment. Also, it's really popular right now, the CIA manual on simple sabotage. So yeah, if you want to be a little bit more overt about it, a lot of that stuff won't get you caught.